It's the first day of summer. That means it's growing season, and more importantly, it's mowing season. Hello again, I am Jim Bob, and welcome back to America Midwest. I am so excited. Today is the day I finally get to break out the big M on this farm. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting patiently, and then impatiently, then very impatiently. And now we are finally here. First day of summer, we have grass fields that are grown and ready, and it's time for us to do some grass work. Now, there is a slight air of trepidation as well, because if you'll look at our weather icon, you can see that we are due some rain at some point later today. I have no idea when, but I would say probably in a few hours' time. I don't think it's going to happen immediately. I think we're probably looking more at sort of midday-ish before that rain does sort of sneak its way over. Now, I want to get some hay work done first of all. Now, we've got plenty of grass fields to choose from, but we do need to make a little bit of a change to our equipment lineup ever so slightly, and I'll explain once we get to the store. So I'm just going to cruise along here in my big M. I do love it in this thing. It's so cool. I suppose I better put the beacons on, hadn't I? There we go. You can see the little light on the dashboard, on the display screen there, indicating that our beacons are shining. There they are. Right, so let's take a look at the fields first of all. So in terms of grass fields, we have this grass field up here and this grass field here. Now these two I'm planning on turning into just grass, because we are going to need to build up our supplies of grass again. We've run quite low. We also have this field here and this field here, and I'm planning on turning these two into hay. And then this field here is kind of reserved for the BGA. Whatever gets mowed on here is probably just going to get chaffed straight into the BGA and shoved into a bunker. And then we also have this area of grass here as a reserve kind of thing. This is our little bit of grass that's left over from the orchard. So here is the orchard up here, and then we've got this expanse of grass down here. And I've never ever worked this section of grass before on this map. I just keep forgetting it's there. So I think what I might do is I might do maybe some silage baling on that bit there. If we jump to the farm up here, you can see that we still have our mowing equipment from last, the last part of the time. Well, the last time we used it. So that would be before we activated seasons. So we have the Lely front mower, the Kuhn rear mower, the Kuhn merger. We have the Krona tedder. And then over here we have our Kuhn round baler with wrapper. So this equipment's going to get used by our Puma up here. So that field just over there, and possibly that square field or that long rectangular field over there might get done with the Puma. That one over there definitely will. And then that field over there by the orchard, I'll probably use the Puma over there as well, and I'll probably do a bit of silage baling on that one. But for everything else, we're going to be using the big M. So let's jump back to that, just cycle through till I can find it. There it is. Now, I did say we need to make a slight change to our equipment lineup. Now, there's two reasons for this. One, as much as I love the idea of using a big M from Krona and then hooking up a Krona a Krona tedder behind it to ted the grass as we're cutting it, it's just not practical. For starters, we would need a trailed lifter to connect the two, because we don't have the right attachment type here. We just have a standard sort of tow hitch attachment. We do have a PTO attachment, but we just have a standard tow hitch here. We don't have a 3-point linkage. We don't have a tow bar linkage or a crossbar linkage. We just have this tow hitch. That's kind of it. So we can't hook up directly. We would have to use a tow bar, a trailed lifter to connect the two together. That's the first problem. That's not really a problem as such. It just means we have to spend 15 grand on a piece of equipment that's only really going to get used just to connect two other bits of equipment together. But the other problem is the working width. Now, the Big M has a working width of 13.2 meters. There you can see it's quite beasty. Quite a wide working width there, 13.2. That's pretty big. Now, our Tedder, unfortunately, is not that big. I mean, it's pretty big. It's 11.2 meters, but it's not big enough. So, do we go for the old faithful method of using the trail lifter and a hay bob? Well, no, we don't need to use that method anymore. Now, that's a method I've been using pretty much since the day, and I think within an hour of the Big M first coming out last year, I was using this method, of using the trail lifter and the hay bob if I wanted to do hay work with it, because it just rode it up anyway. We didn't have widespread. Well, now we do. We do have widespread, so I don't need to have a hay bob on the end of a trail lifter. What I can do is I can go for this, and I rarely ever use this thing because it is just so big, but it works absolutely perfectly with the Big M now that we have the widespread feature. This has a working width of 13 meters. Now, I said it has a 13.2 meter cut width on the Big M, and it does, but it doesn't disperse across 13.2 meters. It actually disperses over something that looks more like around 12.8, a little bit under 13 meters. So this is absolutely perfect to go with the Big M if you want to do TED work. So we're going to buy one of these like that. There we go. And let's jump in, get the engine back on. We'll get connected. The only thing you'll need to be careful of is if you do hook one of these up, is because of the rear mowers, if you turn a little bit too tightly, because obviously this has four-wheel steering, turn a little bit too tightly, you can just catch, as you can see, you can just catch the arm of the tedder while it's folded. It's only while it's folded up though. Once it's deployed, it's absolutely fine. But this setup is a dream to use. It's a joy to use. It makes everything so simple. So if you haven't already updated your Big M, it's been, I think, 2 weeks now, maybe even a little bit more than that, since we got the update on the mod hub. If you haven't already done it, do it, because you'll get the widespread feature, which is really easy to turn on and off. You'll see that in a second. And it means tedding like this is now so easy. No longer do I have a big clunky trail lifter with a piece of equipment attached to the back of that. Now I have something hooked directly to the back of the Big M, and it makes all the difference. It really does. So let's get our mowers unfolded. Just try and back up a little bit. Okay. Let's lower the mowers. Let's unfold our tedder. Oops, just catching on the head fence there. We'll turn slightly. There we go. We'll lower that. And before we go any further, we need to kind of show you what I mean by opening the covers to enable widespread mode. So these are exactly the same as the Kuhn merger. There is an auger inside here, an auger screw that's an Archimedes screw, really, I suppose you would call it, that takes the grass and spins it all the way through this tube and then spits it out there. So you can just see there is the Archimedes screw, there is the auger, and it spits the grass through the tube out into the center. And this side does exactly the same, and then the front mower does exactly the same. It funnels it through a small chamber. You can see there in the middle of the mower, that's where the grass is spat out, and the three combine to make our windrow that's standard mode. Now that we have widespread mode, I can raise. Oops. I need to put it on the big end. There we go. I can raise the covers. Oh, excuse me. I thought there was another sneeze coming for a second then as well. So we can lift the covers, and now these screws no longer work as an auger, because there's nothing to stop the grass from escaping out the back, and that's exactly what it does. It goes through the mower into the chamber and gets spat straight out the back, and here comes out of the sneeze. Ugh. Oh, that's going to bug me. It's lurking. If you hear me sneeze again in a minute, sorry, I'm trying to fight it. So yeah, the grass will basically get spat out there on this front mower instead of all getting fed through to that small narrow exit just there. And it's the same on these rear mowers as well. Whereas before they were getting carried through here and then spat out the sides. There, you can see with the covers lifted, that grass is just going to come flying straight out the back, but it doesn't come all the way out. So the mowing cutting width is to about here, but the grass starts coming out about here. So as you can see, that lines up pretty much perfectly with the edge of our tedder. It works absolutely perfectly as a mow to ted setup like this, and it's perfect for seasons as well, because the second you cut grass, it starts to decompose. The absolute second you cut it, it's already starting to decompose slowly, but it's an immediate, instant, start of the process. So you want to get that tedded pretty much instantly, or baled pretty much instantly, and then wrapped at the same time. So a good way to get around the grass rot is to have a front mower hooked to a tractor, which is then being pulling a coon baler with wrapper. That way you're cutting the grass, it's getting fed straight into the mower, into the baler, so that cut grass on the ground isn't settling there long enough to start decomposing. It's going straight into the baler, and then those bales are getting wrapped the second they're done, so the bales aren't starting to decompose either. It's literally, you're getting the maximum possible yield you can off the field that way. This is exactly the same. We're mowing it, and the second we're mowing it, we're turning it into hay, and the second the grass becomes hay, it doesn't decompose. Unless, of course, it rains, which it is threatening to do. And when the hay gets wet, then it starts to decompose. So, before we go any further with this, we need to make sure that not only can we get this grass cut really quickly and turn it into hay, but we have a quick and easy method of getting it off the field as well. So, to that end, we need two more things. We need our merger from up here, and we need our loading wagon from down here as well. So, let's just turn the engine off on this thing. There we go. We're going to kind of warp around a little bit. We need to get this equipment over there quickly, because as I say, we do have that threat of rain. It's like the sword hanging over our heads. It's going to fall at some point, and when it does, if we have grass or hay on the field, it's going to cause massive problems. If we have grass on the field, it's going to make it way too wet for us to ted it, which means we're going to have to either use it as grass or just leave it there to rot while it dries out. Which is no good. Let's go with white tyres. I do like my white tyres on this tractor. If it is already turned into hay, then it becomes, it just starts to rot the second it gets wet. So we need to get it off the field almost as soon as we're making it, and we need to do it, put it into storage. Now, there's two ways we could do that. We could bale it, and then we could shred the bales when we're ready. But given that this map is not optimized for seasons, making them into bales is a little bit cheaty, because there is no bale rot. Because there is no snow mask, there is no way of telling the the seasons mod itself where is safe and where isn't safe for bales to be stored, which means snow will fall absolutely everywhere, rain will go absolutely everywhere, and because it's impossible to protect your bales because of the snow and rain getting everywhere rather than just in certain areas and not in others, then the bale rot feature is disabled, which is good, but it does mean that if you're playing on a map like this that is not enabled or not optimized, as I should say, for seasons, all maps are effectively enabled for seasons to an extent. If it's not optimized for seasons, then it basically means that you will never ever suffer bale rot. So you can just turn them into bales and leave them there, and that's a bit cheaty, a little bit cheaty, I think. It's not through fault. I mean, you can go through the motions, you can create a safe area and make sure that you have your bales in there and try and play along as though it was a dedicated safe area. But you will never suffer the consequences of bale rot or bales being left out on fields and it raining or snowing. It just won't happen. Grass will still rot and grass bales will still rot because grass rots. That's just a default program. You can't overwrite that. So within 2 days your grass will be gone. Unless of course you wrap it, in which case it'll start fermenting into silage. But yeah, there is no bale rot, so you could just make a load of hay bales and just leave them on the field for the entire year, and they would be absolutely fine. Come rain or snow or sleet or hail or whatever, they would be absolutely fine. They wouldn't take any damage whatsoever. So to kind of work around that, we're going to just scoop it up loose, stick it in our silo and store it as a loose material in the silo. Okay, so our equipment is in place. Now, the prudent thing, the cautious thing to do would be to play it safe and wait to see exactly what's going to happen with the weather and then make a decision later in the day. But that means we're going to be sat around for ages, potentially for the rest of the day. Don't forget, it was on this map with seasons, I think it was. We were planting and there was a threat of rain, and that threat was threatening and threatening and threatening, and then finally the heavens opened about 8-9 hours later than I was expecting it to actually happen. So I don't want to waste an entire day sitting here waiting for rain that is eventually going to come and just waste an entire day doing nothing. I really do want to just throw caution to the wind on this one, because I want to use the big M. So we're going to jump in and we're going to start mowing and tedding this field, and then if it starts raining we'll just scramble, we'll stop mowing and tedding, we'll just deal with what we've got on the field and try and get it off the field as quickly as we can. So, engine on, mowers on, tedder on, away we go. And look at this. When I said that this equipment was made to work with itself, work with each other, it was a match made in heaven, I wasn't kidding. Look at that working width. Just sync up beautifully like that. Absolutely beautifully. It's just under 13 meters. And the great advantage of it like this as well is, because there's no trailed lifter, we have a direct connection to the equipment. So when we turn, we have more control over the piece of equipment that's attached, rather than something that is attached to an attachment, which just dulls the control a little bit. You'll notice when you make a tight turn using the trailed lifter and a hay bob method, if you're windrowing and trying to ted the windrow, that you just miss spots, and sometimes you miss quite big chunks as well when you make those tight turns, because the tedder, the hay bob, isn't going where you want it to. It's going where the trailed lifter wants it to go, which isn't always where where you're aiming. It's a solid piece. There's no flexibility in it at all, so it won't turn at the same rate and the same angle that you want it to. Whereas this, you can see, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. This is possibly my favourite combination. I mean, I loved using the trail lifter. I've been using it, as I say, for months and months and months like that, but I don't think I'm going to use it anymore. Now that we have widespread like this, and I can just lift the covers and I can spit grass out like this and then ted it instantly and accurately like this, and not lose any or have to come back later and catch it again on the corners. I don't think I'll ever go back to using a trailed lifter. I think it's this tedder all the way from now on. This is just, it's a joy to use this. Look, we're going to do a 180. Look at that. We've got great control. Let's just do a little bit of a weird zigzag. Now, we went really extreme there. And even then, look how little we actually missed. Just a tiny, tiny spot on the very far edges of each of those corners. Just tiny, tiny spots. If we'd done that with a trailed lifter, we'd had huge swaths sticking out on both of those curves. As it was, we got a tiny little spot on the far edges of each corner. It's such an efficient setup. It really is. Again, you can see it just spin here. Unless you really spin it back in tight, we just missed one tiny, tiny little spot on the edge there. This is so much cleaner and easier to use as a setup like this. The only downside to this is that it does need to be windrowed again afterwards, but I mean, we're wasting practically nothing off the field here. We're getting pretty much all of the grass, and we're tedding it pretty much all of it instantly. It's just, like I said, it's a joyous setup to use. It really is. I absolutely love this. This is fast becoming one of my favourite. I just want huge, great big fields of grass now. I just run up and down them like this. This is fantastic. You can imagine if this was a worked field as well, and we could actually hire the merger to just instantly merge this up behind us as well. Oh, that would be amazing. If we just ran up and down manually, mowing and tedding, and there's a merger following us and merging it all back into a windrow. Or even if we had a worker doing this, mowing it and tedding it, and then a worker merging it and rowing it back up again, and then we're chasing behind with either a baler or a loading wagon. We could do the entire field in one sitting, in one stage. Worker to mow it and ted it in one go, worker to row it and get it back together again, and we're there to to deal with what's left, those big windrows. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. I kind of want to plant a really big field with grass now and try that out. Maybe next year. Maybe next year we'll do that. Maybe we'll plant some grass on the field by the BJ. Maybe we'll plough that out and turn that into a workable field. I don't know. It's long, but it's not that wide. I don't know how well that would work. But yeah, that would just be a lot of fun. It really would. And of course, if we're not mowing, so if we're not tedding like this, then we don't need to widespread, we can just close the covers and it can automatically just come out as a windrow anyway. So we can then, if we wanted to bale it or just collect it with a loading wagon, we could do that ourselves very, very comfortably. Just have a worker running up and down the field in the Big M, and it comes out, it's already rowed at the back of the Big M. This is now such a versatile piece of equipment. I mean, it was a great mower before, but now it's even more versatile than it was before, now that we actually have the widespread function enabled, and I love it. It's just awesome. It's awesome. Well, that was over way too quickly. Ah, it's such a shame. I was having so much fun. I'm going to end up just blowing through most of my mowing today, and then I'm going to have to wait until the end of autumn for the grass to grow back before I can do it all again. Oh, it's like I'm going to be like a kid in a candy store. I'm just going to go crazy. I'm going to just have a huge overload of sugar and then just crash a little bit later on. Right, now we need to kind of tidy this back up again so that we can then start scooping it up. I do just want to drive straight off to the next field and just start making more hay, but I'm very, very wary of that weather. It is a threat, it is a risk, and I could go off and I could start work on another field and I could have a load of fun making more hay, and then I could, come back. Then it could start raining and I could end up losing both fields, or at the very least large chunks of both fields, and I'm just not prepared to take that risk. So which way is this going? It's going to the right. Okay, that's good, that's the way I want it to go. So we'll start rowing this back up again, and then once that's done we'll start collecting it with the loading wagon. Now, it's been a while since I've used the merger as well, thinking about it. I mean, the last time I used this was, again, last time I did mowing on this map. It's been a while since I've used this thing. It's a lot of fun to use this as well. I have missed it in some respects. It is a great little piece of kit, and I can't quite cover the edges. So what I'm going to do is, once I've done all these rows, is I'm going to then do a vertical row on the field at each end, just to kind of tidy the edges up a bit. But until then, I'm just going to keep kind of running up and down like this, get everything nice and neat. I really want to get started on the grass field, but we've got to deal with this one first. Got to get all of this hay off the field and into storage, just in case the weather turns. And one other thing that we've got as well, I think I might possibly stop mowing for the day, or at least for a little while once I've done this. One other thing we can do is we can check the price of beef, or dairy cows as well. We did hold on to that money for a few days. It's sitting in the bank as part of our loan being paid off. We're just over 1.1 million overdrawn, thanks to paying off some of that $1.5 million loan that we had. It's down to just about 1.125 or something like that. So we've got around about, including the cash on hand, we've got 400,000 to play about with. Now, I'm not going to be investing 400,000 into fresh livestock. I want to keep at least half of that aside for going towards our Big X 580 for when we do some corn chaffing a little bit later this year. But there's nothing to stop us from investing, say, 200,000 into more cattle, more dairy cows, for our manure and slurry production, and also to boost our milk sales, which will in turn increase the amount of profit we're making on a daily basis. With the trees as they are at the moment, and the, well, just in terms of the milk, you know, when I hit midnight, I had about 10 grand on me, and then, you know, accelerating time through the night with the skip day function through till about 5:30 in the morning, quarter to 6 in the morning. By that point, it was 64,000 in the, you know, and we've spent some of that today, and yet every hour we're also making an extra chunk of cash from our trees. So the combination of the milk and the money coming in from the orchard means that even though we have that huge debt, which is charging us around, you know, $4,500-$5,000 a day in interest as it stands at the moment. I think it was like 6.5 when it was fully maxed at 1.5 million. We're still more than covering that, plus the cost, the animal upkeep costs and the machinery running costs and maintenance costs. We're more than covering that. We're making a profit just from the milk sales, and when you throw the orchard in there as well, we are in a very healthy financial position, despite having that huge debt. I mean, I said it more than once now, but it bears repeating. I think, you know, we can afford to be a little bit reckless with our expenditures on this farm, because it is making, you know, really good money even without selling anything, you know, in terms of crops. Just relying on the orchard and the milk is so far more than enough to turn the daily profit after all of our expenses go out. So once we actually start selling crops as well, oh, this thing's going to be a gold mine. We'll be able to start buying some of these really big fields, and we need this farm to be a gold mine, because the fields are really expensive, because, you know, compared to some of the other farms and the other maps that we've played on, you know, we are talking hundreds of thousands for even, you know, moderate sized, you know, fields. So we kind of need this farm to make a lot of money if we're ever going to expand it. Right. Hopefully the final pass along the bottom, and then we can do the edges, get those nice and tidy. Making sure we're trying to get everything here. Just missed a touch on the edge. We can always tidy that up afterwards with the loading wagon. Right, so now comes the slightly more awkward bit. You're going to run this right up against the fence, like so. So we're going to get some clumpy bits. But we are nicely tidying up these edges, and then we can just run a straight line with our loading wagon to pick those up. We'll do the same at the other end. See, we are getting a little bit of judder. I think that is just a combination of mods and seasons. Go. We'll do the same again here. Just run up and down this edge here and tidy this up. For the most part, it's already pretty tidy, but there are little bits coming up like this. We do kind of need to just row it a little bit. Like so. There we go. Right. So, get this folded away. Grab the loading wagon and start collecting and transporting our grass up to the animal farm, where we can store it in our silo. as I make my way along this road back to the animal farm, I can see that the the rain symbol has now become completely dominant in our little weather pop-up next to the clock. So it's now a bit of a race against time. Can we get all of that hay off the field and into the silo before the rain actually comes? I really hope so. I don't want to sort of lose or waste any of this this product here, because we are going to need it for both animal feed, for our cows and our sheep when we do get some sheep as well. I'll tell you what, when we are up here, we can check the price of our dairy livestock, see how much it's going to cost to buy some. So let's turn here, back this up, start unloading, and while that's doing that, I'm going to quickly run across here. That'll be unloaded probably before I even get here. Let's just jump the fence. And let's see. 4,300, that's cheap. If we look at the predicted price, see, cows were predicted to be around 5,000, well, a little over 5,000 today, probably about 5,500, and then even cheaper, you know, tomorrow and the day after. Now, I don't know if I want to take that gamble and wait another day, because that price is really low. That's you know, 4,300. I mean, the prices shown in that little sort of bar chart that I just took a look at, they're not confirmed prices. They're kind of predictions as to what the price might be. And with the price considerably lower than today's prediction, it could mean one of two things. It could mean that tomorrow we'll be in for an absolute bargain because they'll be even cheaper still. Or it could mean that, yeah, the market is at its cheapest point right now, and if we delay another day, then, you know, the price could start to go back up again. So I think we'll buy our cows today just to play it safe. I mean, they're already $700 cheaper than they are normally, you know, a base price of 5,000 per cow. So yeah, I reckon we can get a good number of cows for our 200 grand there. On the last windrow now, as you can see. Hopefully I can get all of this in the back of the trailer here. It's going to be close. Should just about be able to get it. Oh yeah, yeah, that'll all fit. And there we go, we've cleared all the hay off the field, and with a little bit of time to spare by the look of it. Right, let's there we go. Prepped and running, ready to run back and dump in the silo. So it's almost midday, and that thread of rain is still hanging over our head like a sword, ready to swing at any moment. Making me very, very nervous about starting another field. I just know now that if I try and do it on another field here, it's going to rain, and it's going to ruin our chance of either tedding or, you know, collecting the grass properly. So I think that's probably it for the mowing for today. But as I say, we do have, you know, all that money that we can reinvest in cattle. It's quite fitting that we talk about that as we drive past the livestock market there. So we're going to invest a couple of $100 grand in cattle. I wonder how many we can get. I would imagine somewhere in the region of around 40, 45 at that kind of price. I guess we'll find out in a second. So we're going to drop this in the silo, then we're going to go grab our truck, and we're going to start running cattle back to the animal farm, bit by bit, until we spent 200 grand. And then we'll probably refeed our animals, because we're definitely going to need to refeed the cows. We're going to be taking their existing supplies and then adding in, you know, a large number of extra animals into that same amount of food, which is going to make the supplies last even less. so we'll have to really top them up again. And we'll probably need to top the pigs up as well. I want to see, actually, because we've run out of wheat and barley, I want to see what kind of effect that's having on our pig health, see if it's causing them to drop or just, stable, stay stable at a non-increasing rate. I guess we'll find out in just a second. Let's dump this. There we go. Let's open up the animal tab and have a look. Animal health, 83%. It's holding at 83. So yeah, we can top the animals up a little bit. Definitely want to work on topping up the cows once we've increased their numbers back up to 82% on their health, which is good to see. Right, we don't need this truck for a little while, so let's switch out to the truck. There it is. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's just double check exactly how many cows we're going to be looking at getting. We can do that here at the dialogue box. So let's see, how many will take us up to 200 grand? It's halfway. Okay, so 45, but that's with a 6,350 delivery charge, so we can throw in an extra one there. 46 effectively is what we're looking at. 46 new cows to add to the herd. That's a pretty awesome amount, so I'm kind of pleased with that. I think we could do quite well there. Right, let's disconnect from the trailer. Leave the animal trailer, which is next door. There we go. Right. So let's make our way over to the animal dealership and go start purchasing some additional cattle for our dairy herd. Okay, so here goes the first load. Look how cheap pigs are. Sheep are actually coming down in price as well. Maybe we should actually buy a few sheep. Let's see, it's going to take us a long time. Oh, I need to take the money out first, don't I? It's going to take us a long time to transfer all of these cows. There we go. Oh, that's too much. I got a bit carried away there. That's too much. There we go. So yeah, we'll buy some sheep, I think, as well. We'll split it. We'll buy some cows and we'll buy some sheep. So I'll take a load of cows over first of all. We get 2 trailers worth of additional cows. That's 28 cows, and then the rest we'll put into sheep. We won't get anywhere near as many sheep because they're quite expensive still. You know, they're more expensive than they would normally be, but we've got this money, we may as well buy them while we have the opportunity. And also, I want to try out this bug that there is apparently with seasons when it comes to buying animals. Now, we haven't experienced this because we already had existing animals, and we've just worked with those. And we haven't purchased any yet. We've just sold some. But apparently there is a bug where buying animals resets the health down to 1%, or they come in at 1% and they stay there for a very long time before they eventually start to recover. Whereas if you buy one and then sell one and then start buying again, it should clear the issue. and they should go in at 80% health, which is their default starting health. Now, I think we'll be fine with the pigs and the cows because, as I say, we already had those in place when we transferred this farm over to Seasons. And they started at 80% health there, so I don't foresee a problem with these cows. But I'm going to unload one rather than the whole lot, just to double check. And then we'll do the same with the sheep. We'll buy one sheep. Well, we'll buy a load of sheep, but we'll drop one off first and see what happens, and then do the same with the rest afterwards. So let's unload one cow. Let's check the herd. Yeah, no change to the health, which is as expected. So let's unload the rest. There we go. And let's go get a second load of cows. And there we go. Our cows are all loaded in, so that's going to have a big impact on our feed levels. Let's just close the gates. There we go. Let's double check the animal tab again. And there we go. We now have 152 cows. Now we do still have some money to spend, as you can see. We've got 122,000. But we're going to buy some sheep. Not too many. I might even end up buying a third trailer of cows. But we'll see. I'll buy a full trailer of sheep first, and then see where we go from there. And again, don't forget, we're going to be just unloading one and seeing what happens to the price. We may have to sell it. Or what happens to the health? We may have to sell it to reset the health to 80%. That is what I've heard is the fix for dealing with that situation. Ah, the irony. We're about to buy some sheep, and we've just been given a great demand for wool. Lovely. Well, there we go. 24 sheep is the total number we can fit into the back of this trailer, and that's going to take up pretty much all the rest of our money. So, no more cows then. Just one single trailer of sheep. It's not going to do huge numbers of wool for us in this first year with 24 of them, but it's a good start, I think. Oh, need to open the trailer up, give them some air to breathe. So we'll get these back at the farm and unloaded bit by bit and see exactly what happens to their health. Okay, crunch time. So let's just drop off one sheep and take a look at the health. And the health is only at 2%. Now, I've heard the way to do this is to then sell that sheep. I'm going to see if I can just get away with loading it back into the trailer. And now re-unloading it and seeing that makes a difference. Yeah, look at that. Fantastic. So we didn't even need to sell the sheep. We just loaded it out of the trailer, back into the trailer, and then back out, and boom, there we go, 80%. So we didn't lose any money by selling a sheep below market value. Fantastic. That's worked out really, really nicely. So now we can unload the rest of them. They'll all go in at 80% health, which is what they should do. And there we go. We now have 24 sheep running around with no wool, no water, no food. So I'm going to have to kind of really run around like crazy this afternoon and start adding feed for them. Now you've seen me feed the animals loads and loads of times. I'm not going to sit and make you watch me do that again, but what I am going to do is quickly sort out the animals, you know, the sheep, because you haven't seen me do sheep before. So we'll very quickly do the sheep. I could feed them grass, I could feed them hay. I'm going to feed them hay. This is another reason why I wanted to make sure I had plenty of hay, because I knew we would need more just in general because of the increased number of cows we'll be bringing onto the farm. We've got a large amount of TMR, so I'm not too worried about running out of that anytime soon. But also the hay gives us the option of feeding our sheep as well. So we'll load up a single trailer worth of hay, and then we'll grab our water trailer. We'll get some feed down, and one thing else I'm going to buy, if I can afford it, is another Lely Juno. They're 12,000. Can't quite afford it just yet, but as the day carries ticking on, our trees will make us enough money to be able to get to 12 grand and buy that. So I'll add a Lely Juno in between episodes as well, so that we've got something running and picking up the mess at our food trough for our sheep. So here we go, this is almost a first. I say we do have 7 litres of grass. That was grass that I had left over from something. I forget what. It might have been some grass I was trying to... I think it was grass I was trying to dump into my chaff silo, and it wouldn't work, the bunker silo here at this farm, and it wouldn't go in, so I think I just dumped it in this grass trough. Is that it? Is that all we needed for 24 sheep? Was just 2,000 litres? Wow. Oh, we're fine. We're not going to have any feed issues with these sheep whatsoever. If they only need a couple of thousand litres, we're going to be golden in terms of keeping them fed. Water will be a slightly different story, but we should have a load in that tanker. So we'll tip this back. We'll grab our water tanker. We'll top them up, and then that'll probably be it for the end of this episode. And as I say, I will feed them the rest of my animals in the second half of the day off camera, so you won't see that, but it will take place. And then tomorrow, when we come back at the start of the next day, we will get some fertilizing going, because we've got to weed the rest of our fields again. And then probably, if the weather's good, we'll do some more mowing. It still hasn't rained, look. See, the weather symbol's changed again, so the sun is now peeking back out again, which suggests the weather is going to turn sooner rather than later. But it's been suggesting that all morning and still nothing. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with the rain on this map. It's really, really weird. It just never seems to arrive when you think it's going to. And is that it? Is our water trough full as well? It is. Excellent. So there we go. Our sheep are in. They're taken care of. I'm going to top up the rest of the animals. And as I say, I'll buy a Juno for the food trough, and we'll keep everything running nice and smooth. And then tomorrow, when we come back, we'll do some fertilising and probably a bit more mowing. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll see you all again with some more American Midwest very soon.